Hey, do you have experience in writing for news, audio production, or video production? If so, WHIP News actually could use more folks like you. Also, assuming that you go to Temple. There's a little form in the description, and if you fill it out and you're going to be here longer than like this semester, we could really use you. So consider doing that. It is the first episode of the semester, and it's already a doozy. The U.S. government is all over the news as both the Shutdown and Russia investigation yield some interesting developments. Plus, tensions are rising in Venezuela, Chris Brown got arrested in Paris, and there's a whole bunch of campus news. From WHIP, I'm Tony Pearson, and this is your WHIP Weekly News Crackdown. Before we get to the whole government, let's start with the military. On Tuesday, January 22nd, the Supreme Court allowed the Trump administration's request to ban most transgender people from the military to go into effect. In an unsigned 5-4 order, the justices took no stance on the legality of the ban. The policy was first announced by President Trump back in July 2017 via Twitter. It blocks individuals who have been diagnosed with gender dysphoria from serving with limited exceptions. Active duty members who have already started treatment can complete their treatment and serve. The exceptions also allow for trans individuals who have been, quote, stable for 36 consecutive months in their biological sex to serve in their biological sex, as well as those, quote, without a history or diagnosis of gender dysphoria. While the Supreme Court's no-stance position will allow the ban to go into effect, the lack of a decision means that ongoing legal challenges to the policy will continue. And now for the rest of the government. Last week, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi uninvited Trump from giving his State of the Union address on January 29th, citing concerns that the government shutdown could compromise security for the event. The president responded by canceling her travel to Brussels, Egypt, and Afghanistan. And he said, quote, obviously, if you would like to make your journey by flying commercial, that would certainly be your prerogative. And as it turns out, at least according to Pelosi, that was her prerogative until the president spilled the beans that she'd likely have to take public transportation on Twitter. She's a prominent U.S. political figure heading into a region currently experiencing active conflict. And with this in mind, the State Department's Diplomatic Security Service updated their threat assessment, predicting significantly increased danger to the delegation and its personnel. So the commercial plans were canceled last minute. But just prior to filming, the president announced a deal to end the longest U.S. government shutdown in history, at least for 3 weeks. The deal, which the president announced from the White House, reopens closed government departments for 3 weeks while leaving the issue of the $5.7 billion border wall open to further discussions. So honestly, maybe the State of the Union address will take place soon. Who the heck knows? Maybe you will by the time this video gets published. But that's not all, folks. Friday morning, longtime advisor to Donald Trump and veteran Republican operative Roger Stone was arrested for allegedly making multiple attempts to contact WikiLeaks via an intermediary about the hacked DNC emails during the 2016 election, even after it was reported that they were sourced from Russia, something he has previously told Congress and the American public he did not do. Stone is being charged with crimes related to obstruction and lying to Congress. Additionally, he's also being charged with witness tampering after allegedly exchanging threatening texts with a witness in the investigation. For more about the whole Russia investigation situation, check out our coverage of Jeff Sessions' forced resignation last year. As of this recording, Roger Stone has claimed he will not testify against the president. He has had his passport revoked and has been released on $250,000 bail, denying any wrongdoing. And yet, things could be more volatile. In Venezuela, tensions are rising regarding the legitimacy of their sitting president, Nicolás Maduro. Maduro, successor to Hugo Chavez and leader of Venezuela during a period of economic hyperinflation and severe resource shortages, has faced massive criticism after winning an election last year that was considered by many to be rigged, leaving the international community split on whether to recognize his government. Things came to a head this past Wednesday during massive protests as Venezuelan opposition leader Juan Guaido, also the leader of Venezuela's legislative body, declared himself acting president. Since then, lots of things have happened. The U.S. and some of its allies have recognized Guaido's interim government. Maduro has called the move a coup and called for the cutting of diplomatic ties with the U.S., which the U.S. has declined to do because it isn't recognizing him. But Russia has maintained its support for Maduro and warned the United States that attempts to intervene could be dangerous, which is pretty sketchy. Who is truly in power in Venezuela right now is not entirely clear, but we'll try to keep you updated. But in totally unrelated news, on Tuesday, January 22nd, Chris Brown and two other unidentified individuals were arrested in Paris on allegations of aggravated rape and drug violations. The Paris prosecutor's office said Brown has been released from police custody and he won't face any charges at this time. But the investigation is ongoing. The U.S. Embassy in Paris has declined to comment on Brown's arrest. Brown denied the accusations in his Instagram post from his official Twitter account, saying, quote, "I want to make it perfectly clear, this is false and a whole lot of cap. For my daughter and my family, this is so disrespectful and is against my character and morals." This, though, is not the singer's first run-in with the law. Brown was arrested in July after a concert in West Palm Beach, Florida, on a felony battery charge. And in 2013, Brown and his bodyguard were arrested and charged with felony assault after an alleged altercation outside a hotel in Washington, among other things. Oh, yeah, speaking of Paris, there were a bunch of protests against the administration in France during our downtime. Concessions have been made, but talks are still ongoing. We'll likely cover this again at some point if there are extreme developments. Yikes. And now for some Temple news. Temple University Hospital might be going to trial in an ageism lawsuit from 2017, in which Berkeley Williams, 64, who worked in the hospital's linen department until January 2016, was fired for playing a video game on his phone at work. Temple attempted to have the case dismissed in December of 2018, but the judge denied their request, finding there was enough evidence for the case. Williams says that Joseph Julia, who managed the linen department and central distribution at the hospital, discriminated against him for his age. Williams is asking for back pay and to be reinstated in his position, or to receive equivalent compensation. Williams had received disciplinary violations before, but says that Julia fired him because he was close to retiring and receiving additional employment benefits from the hospital. On Thursday, January 17th, Joshua Hupperterz was found guilty of the murder of Jenna Burley and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The jury unanimously convicted him after deliberating for 2 hours. Jenna Burley dedicated her life to giving back to those in need. She was an activist for LGBTQ and women's rights. To honor her kindness, her family has started the nonprofit Jennas Blessings Foundation, which collects personal care items and distributes them to people experiencing homelessness. The thoughts of all of us here at WHIP go out to Jenna's friends and family. Looking for something to do this week on campus? Take part in RecycleMania. Every year, college and university recycling programs compete to see who can waste less and recycle more over an 8-week period. This year, Temple University set a goal to recycle 350,000 pounds. And frankly, I think we could do more. To kick off the competition, head over to Morgan Hall between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. or to J&H at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, January 30th for a free mug. And there it was, the news. I'd suggest more, but I don't want to feel bloated later, you know? Join us next week for more of the news you care about. From WHIP, I'm Tony Pearson, and this has been your WHIP Weekly News Crackdown.